So this is the throwback episode.
Yeah.
If you could throw back to a particular age, what's your favorite age? When did you peak?
30.
30 was the goal in it?
Yeah.
Yeah?
It was a year ago.
1 year ago. That's good.
Yeah, that's a good year. If I went back, I would know a lot more than I do now.
Well, seeing as this is the throwback episode, I feel like I would go back to a time when it was a simpler time, when I first read my favorite childhood book. That wasn't Mr. Rogers.
No, there's no non-instrumental one. Or only instrumental. That's all I can find.
Good evening, boys and girls. I'm so happy to have you all here with us tonight. And I want each and every one of you to know that I love you. Now, some of you may have mommies and daddies, or brothers or sisters that don't love you. But I do. So let's just dive right into it here. This is a classic. You may have heard of it. Feel free to recite along from memory. This is Cornelius, the cynical koala bear, and Hitler, the genocidal Nazi cat. Oh, there we are. You all know this one, of course. Cornelius wasn't always a cynic. There was once upon a time. A time when Cornelius lived on high in the treetops with his fellow koala bears, who actually aren't even bears at all, but rather they're marsupials. So some blind scientist really dropped a Vegemite sandwich on that one. Feel free to recite the words along from there.
I'm pretty sure we all have chlamydia.
Chlamydia, that's right. Absolutely riddled with chlamydia. Although Cornelius lived in a koala marsupial community, he didn't quite fit in. You see, koala bears are passionate about one thing, and one thing only, and that's eucalyptus leaves. Some have become addicted to eucalyptus and refuse to get help, but Cornelius hated eucalyptus leaves. To him, eucalyptus tasted like the spaces in between a sloth's toes. Cornelius only liked potato chips. Fantastic. Salt and vinegar potato chips, jalapeno and cheddar potato chips, even those wacky new flavors like chili and cheese injected hot dog nacho flavor, and buffalo hot wing veal hot ranch blue and cheese tornado. Where and when he first tried all of these potato chips is unclear, but for the purposes of this story, we'll say it was at Tommy's house. Isn't that nice? One day, Cornelius came down from the eucalyptus trees in search of potato chips. Normally, koala bears don't come down from the treetops in search of food, but Cornelius' stomach was much bigger than his brain, as koala bears are quite possibly the stupidest animals in the animal kingdom. In fact, koala bears are so stupid, they can't even perform the simplest of tasks, such as eating leaves off of a flat surface. And when they're very young, they eat their mother's poop. Cornelius followed his big, delicious-looking juju of a nose to a nearby town of Asawapa Dumpa Pahatur turd dilly bar log. He could almost taste those tasty taters as he wandered into an open house. A people house. Slambo, whambo, clink, clang, and clink. The people of the house threw him in the clink.
Oh no, not that picture yet. That's the one.
It's behind bars there. Cornelius found himself in jail. The humans were rarely at home because they were too busy hunting endangered species of rhinoceros to extinction, to grind up their bones and turn them into ineffectual boner pills that they can sell to wealthy Chinese businessmen who seek dead animal remains as a status symbol. The circumstances left behind a big, fat, privileged cat named Kittler, who once flunked out of art school and was filled with hate to oversee the prison. Kittler was appropriately named so for the predominant Hitler mustache painted just below his little kitten nose. And also because he served alongside the genocidal maniac during the Third Reich's occupation of Europe. And Kittler was forced to flee to Australia because he didn't want to be tried as a war criminal. At first, it wasn't so bad for Cornelius because the crushing guilt of the homeowners felt every day for murdering rhinos. They thought maybe if they treated Cornelius with some decency, the nightmares would stop. So they embraced him as a pet for a time. And for a time, he could eat all of the potato chips he wanted. But then one day, Cornelius took a shit on the floor. And he was locked away forevermore. Kittler tortured Cornelius, for he couldn't stand anyone who wasn't exactly the same as him. Kittler would swipe at Cornelius through the bars and lip-sync to Milli Vanilli and have wild, orgiastic sex romps with clouders of neighborhood tomcats and force Cornelius to watch. Faced with life imprisonment, Cornelius tried to defend himself, but appealing time and time again to those who had wrongfully withheld his freedom. But he was just too stupid. But Kittler's insidious behaviors did not go unnoticed. Eventually, the little prick had so angered the volcano god Machismo. Let's give that a little time. Machismo blew his burning hot load all over the countryside, and rivers of lava and fire surrounded the city of Assawipe, dump, turd, dilly bar log. All of a sudden, the encroaching flames somehow knocked over Cornelius's cage, which he could have easily done all along, but again, can't eat leaves off of a flat surface. And then there's a scene where Cornelius has a hold of Kittler and they're up in the treetops because Cornelius is really good at climbing, and because he's a koala bear, and he's holding on to Kittler, but Kittler's paw is deliberately slipping, and Cornelius shouts, "Hold on!" But Kittler would rather die than be saved by a koala, so he flares out his claws and he says, "Over my dead body!" And Cornelius says, "That's exactly the point!" And Kittler jams his claws into Cornelius's paws and falls into the fire. And probably Cornelius does too. And the moral of the story, as we all know, is to never take a shit on the floor. And don't have orgies with koala bears because they all have chlamydia. The end.
Timeless classic.
He said,